verse from the Old Testament. So strange, in fact, I'm going to put something on the website about it. It says this: when he ascended on high, he led captives in his train and gave gifts to men. And Paul says this refers to Christ. And he goes on to say, what does he ascended mean, except that he also descended to the lower earthly regions? In other words, if Jesus has gone up there to the very presence of God, that should remind us, says Paul, that he first came down. That the person who is up there now descended to the earthly lower regions. What does that actually mean? Well, many of the ancient church fathers thought that it referred to Christ descending into hell after the crucifixion was over. I don't think that's true. I'll maybe put something about that on the website too. But if not, then do challenge me when you see me, because I don't believe that is what this verse means, despite the fact that people as great as Tertullian and Jerome read it in that way. I think the only thing it can refer to is the incarnation. Eternity shut in a span, God in man and strength and weakness. The triumph that Jesus Christ brought about was brought about by his weakness, by coming down to earth to be one of us. And that's the way that it goes in Christian life, isn't it? Strength comes out of weakness. God refused to take Paul's thorn in the flesh away. Do you remember from 2 Corinthians? He said, my grace is sufficient for you. My strength is made perfect in weakness. And when Jesus died on the cross, it looked like such a humiliation, such a defeat. His foes were never so triumphant for just 3 days. And then after that, the scale of the victory started to become apparent. And we started to realize just what Jesus had done in triumphing through weakness and defeat. And so that's got to be true for us too, hasn't it? We are never going to be triumphant and successful as the world sees it in our Christian service. We're always going to be fools for Christ. We're going to run the risk of looking ridiculous, stupid, pitiful, humiliated. And yet if we stick faithfully to what God has called us to, in the end, we won't be humiliated. We'll be triumphant. Do you remember John the Baptist, who for a while was flavour of the month amongst the Jews? When he saw Jesus coming, said, he must increase, and so I must decrease. And so he did. In the end, he was beheaded on the whim of a giddy-minded princess. Strange way for a career like that to go. Odd death for a great man of God to die. And yet he realised that in his defeat, in his decrease, would come an increase of glory and power for Jesus that would make it all worthwhile. That's the challenge that God has for you and me today. How much time are you going to spend in your insecurity, trying to make yourself look bigger than you are? And how much time are you going to allow God to take over the weakness of your life and bring something glorious out of it? The choice is going to be yours. Have a good day.